Hey guys, how are you doing? Ken's MoneyMatters once again. Hope you're having a lovely week. Anyways, guys, everything seems to be collapsing around us. Right now, I'm thinking about this investing journey, and I think it's the most difficult time to actually invest. It's the most challenging time to invest. It's a defining moment in the world of investing right now. And if you don't do what I'm gonna say in this video, you will be likely to lose this game. I'm saying this game because investing, financial management is all a game. We are playing a game. That's why Tony Robbins wrote that book, The Money Game. It's the money game, right? And right now, if you look at the environment around us, everything just seems to be going wrong. Especially recently, I spoke about Alberto Ojwang being killed in Kenya, and it sparked protests, it sparked demonstrations, and then that one went on for a while. It was such a big news. Just before that, we had, of course, last year we had the demonstrations again for the finance bill, which also the effect went on for a while as well. We had lots of economic impacts. And then, of course, recently after the Albert issue, then there were more people were killed. And then there were stories coming up of people being killed in the country, in Kenya. And police brutality has just gone to another level right now. And the number of people who have died in police custody, the number of people dying in the hands of law enforcement officers who are meant to keep them safe is increasing by the day. And by the time I'm shooting this video, there was a commemoration protest on the 25th of June to mark the anniversary of those who were killed in the last year's protest. And guess what, guys? Not a surprise. More people were killed. Right now, officially, they're saying 11. Of course, if they say 11, we know what they mean. And there are so many deaths that are never recorded during these protests. And so we protest about the killing of one person, then people get killed again in the country. So Kenya as a country and those who are investing in Kenya is definitely not in the best place right now. I feel that the country is in a very precarious point. It could be a rebirth of a country. It could be I don't know, it could be a revolution. It could be a cycle, and therefore there's a rebirth of a country. The country is going through changes that it must go through for it to get to different levels. They always say that when you grow as a person, even as a country, there are cycles that you must go through. Some of them will be rough, some of them will be marked by blood and sweat, but for a country to develop its systems to get to the next level, there will be such occurrences. These cycles will always exist in any country, any democracy. This is one of the things that prompted me to do the video. So if you're looking at investing locally in Kenya, then you're having this environment that is so uncertain. Economically speaking, Kenya is quite uncertain right now. There's so many things going on. And looking at what I've just seen in the news and in the reports regarding people who are killed again during the protest, even as I shoot this video on a Thursday, after those protests, there are protests again because a lot of people are killed. And just coming out that so many people were actually killed on the 25th of June. So the environment is quite precarious, I would say. It's quite unstable at this point. Is it still a good investing environment? We're going to discuss that. That's one thing. Now, if you go to the global scene as well, you've seen what's happening. Initially, we had Trump come in with the tariff wars, and the tariff wars did have a lot of economic impacts. Stocks did go down almost 20%. So meaning even if you were diversified into international stocks, at that time you had a really bad time because then stocks were really down. And some of them reached an agreement or kind of paused the tariffs, and that brought the stocks back up. There was still a bit of uncertainty in the market, and the markets don't like uncertainty. So it hasn't really performed well, or we're not back to where we're supposed to be. So that's the other thing. So we had the tariff wars, which then interfered with just not local markets, but also international markets. So even if you are investing outside the country, then you still had some impacts with that. Besides the tariff wars, which again, as we speak, hasn't really ended because there's no finalized agreement on these tariffs as we speak, but there's a bit of negotiations going on and some agreements being signed. And therefore, we are hopeful and optimistic that things are going to get better at some point and give us a more stable economic environment. And just when we were ending the tariff wars, then we had Trump going to bomb certain nuclear sites in Iran. And that again has caused a lot of panic. And these are things that people are thinking, are we going on a World War III? Are we going to have another World War? Are we going to have another major conflict? Because again, we can see from history where America has gotten to when they're looking for their resources and trying to control the world. We've seen what they do in many countries, and it's not a secret. Now, it's even more open because Trump speaks about it so openly, and he discusses how he's bombing places and, he's bombing sites, and America has the best technology in warfare. These kind of things obviously can lead to a lot of uncertainty in the markets. Again, the markets don't like uncertainty. So as an investor and from a personal finance perspective, what should we be doing? What should we be investing in? What's safe? Because you look at the global market, you have Trump doing whatever he wants every single day. For instance, the Iran conflict alone could cause a major shift in oil prices because most of the oil comes from Middle East, as you are aware. The Strait of Hormuz, which is along the Gulf, which Iran was actually threatening to close. So that's the strait, or I would say that's the path through which 20% of world oil goes through. And that will be a major impact, not only impact on oil, but then once oil is impacted, you can imagine the ripple effect. Trust me, it will be so bad if they do close that strait. Right now, they'll say they won't close it because obviously closing that Strait of Hormuz would also interfere with Iran's own exports. It will interfere, it will choke them, basically, because that's also the gate pass to all the exports and people getting oil from Iran. And then we're looking at UAE is there as well. We're looking at Oman is there as well. So there are countries around there that would not really want that to be closed. So it will impact many economies, it will impact many countries, and that's not something that we want. Once again, that will then lead to a lot of ripple effects within the economic systems. So if you look at things happening recently, everything is just like going so wrong. You're like, what's happening? Where should we turn to? So someone reached out to me recently and said, hey, you know what, where should we be investing right now? Where should we be putting our money? Especially if Iran acts on their threats and they close that strait, it's going to affect oil prices. They will shoot high because then it limits the amount that is being supplied. Obviously, that's a big disruption in the oil industry, which then leads to so many other disruptions across the world. And besides that, the war itself, the idea of Israel getting into a proper war with Iran, and then of course Iran also retaliating. And you can see, for instance, their retaliation didn't go into the US. They were retaliating using the US army bases in Iraq, which again tells you how war is such an unpredictable thing. That they did bomb, the US sent their jets or their super jets to go and bomb Iran. And what Iran did is now go and bomb the US bases in Qatar, which essentially means you're attacking Qatar because this is located within Qatar. They have agreements. You're basically attacking that country as well. And so you look locally in Kenya, you see a lot of gloom when it comes to the investing environment. You're like not sure if the leaders are actually up to building a proper economy that can support growth, that can support investing, that can support stocks, that can support stability in our bond or debt market. So there's loads of uncertainty. Then you look at outside where you should have certainty. Then you have Trump doing all these things and the US being like a major world trade partner. It becomes very difficult to know exactly where you want to invest. But guys, so what should you be doing at this particular time? What should be your action point? And my simple advice is that do nothing right now. This is the time to continue with your plan as it was. Do nothing is the plan. Do nothing. Doing nothing means continue with your plan as it was. If you are investing a certain percentage of your money in debt securities in Kenya, continue with that plan. If you are investing in international stocks, continue with that plan. If you are investing in oil before, continue with that plan. It's not the time to try and speculate what's going to happen next so that you can make a killing. You can't make a killing. You could be lucky, but that's more of gambling. Stay the course. That's what we say in investing. Stay the course, remain consistent, invest where you're supposed to invest. But of course, as well, you also want to have liquid money. So despite staying the course, you want to have some liquid money so that you can monitor what's happening in the markets, monitor what's going to happen with our stability and all these wars and all these tariff issues, and then locally speaking, all the protests and how the country is going to manage to bounce back properly and stand on its feet economically speaking. Because when we have protests every single time, the economy cannot grow. So you have to monitor all these things, but stay the course, do what you've been doing. Just have some cash for emergency so that you're always covered in terms of emergency. And mainly if you're in Kenya, you want to have good emergency amount. So you need to have some liquid cash that you can use at any point. And besides liquid cash, you also want to make sure that you have some money that you can use to grab some stocks if things just go down. Because looking at things right now, if stocks were to fall today, then you want to be able to buy them at a cheap price. So again, looking at things right now, you want to be in a position whereby if stocks were to fall and they were on sale cheaply, if real estate was to fall, if let's say businesses were to fall, whether in Kenya or outside, then they will be on sale. And that's the time for you to come in with some cash and buy as much as you can. So 3 things I would really advise right now is number 1, do nothing in your plan. If you had an objective, you had a plan, you had a strategy, continue with it as it was before. Number 2, add on to your emergency fund. Make sure you have some money that's liquid, depending on your circumstances. If you have a family, where you live, especially in Kenya, have some good emergency fund that can then sustain you if anything were to go wrong. And then number 3, ensure that you have some liquid money such that if businesses become cheap, that's the time to invest. That's the time to buy businesses. That's the time to put your money in the market. Because looking at the global economic environment, there's just that notion, there's just that air that things might reset at some point. Going by all these rhetorics around war talks and all these things happening, that's the time you want to put in some money. But again, if things stabilize from here on, which is what we hope for, then again, you can also start dollar cost averaging your money and returning it into the market with time, depending on where you're investing. So this is not the time to run around looking for new investments. This is not the time to try and gamble and figure out which stock is going to make it, big, especially if we have wars. Of course, some people will know which stock will make it if we have a war, a full-fledged war. But will you be that lucky as well? Do you have that information? If you have that information, then you can make it. But if you don't have that information, then maybe it's for you to just take that course, do what you need to do, and stay consistent. How do you feel about the environment right now? How do you feel about what's happening? How do you feel about the economic outlook of Kenya as a country, Africa, globally speaking, with everything that's going on? Everything seems to be falling apart, guys. But you know what? You don't have to fall apart. You need to remain consistent, remain steady, and know that these things are just cycles, and at some point they're going to end. Till next time, I'm